All right, so in this video, we're going to go over why there's the notion of mechanics being scammers. So I'll go over three scenarios here, why they are looked at scammers, just because it's mostly a lack of communication and a lack of experience. So that's where it gets lost in translation, and then the customers always walk away with a bad taste in their mouth thinking that we are scammers. So we'll go over the most simple scenario, which is here. So first scenario here is going to be you go to a mechanic or a garage or a dealer, and then you just you complain of a whatever your complaint is, noise, yeah, mostly a noise complaint or something not working. And then they diagnose it to be, we're just going to use this as an example, component one, which is going to cost, let's say, 200 bucks. All right, so they'll fix that component, and then from what they've diagnosed, and then they'll send you on your way. So this scenario happens a lot where it's not component one, the one they originally called. It's not the one that fixes your problem. So they have two choices here, which is either they front this bill, they front the $200 bill, or they'll just say that, you know, component one was bad, which in reality it wasn't. And then they'll just say, so what you need to fix your problem completely is going to be component two, which is, let's say, another 300 bucks. And now the customers have trust issues because they don't know if, you know, the component one was actually bad, or they just replaced it for nothing, or because of their lack of experience. Some shops will front this bill and say, you know what, it's our fault, we called the wrong component, so we'll pay the 200 bucks, the part and component, the parts and labor, and then you'll pay only the 300, which was supposed to be the original amount. But in this scenario, who can you blame? It's hard. If you're an honest shop, then yeah, you're just gonna front this bill here, 200 bucks, and then because you're gonna keep a long-term customer, so you don't want to lose that customer just over 200 bucks. And then, so this scenario happens a lot, but you know, as a I'm gonna argue for the mechanic here, which is if you can't call, you know, say you have 10 jobs, or you can't call 10 perfectly. You could do that. You could call 10 perfect components saying, you know, it needs this, it needs this component or that. And, you know, you could have a, let's say like a win rate, use it as a win rate of 100%. But if you're, which is impossible to have, you know, to be always right on the component you call. But if you have like a win rate of 8 on 10, you know, eight components out of 10 that you call are the good ones, which is, let's say, 80% success rate, and that's pretty good. But you know, you got the two on 10, the two customers on 10 that are going to have the bad taste in their mouth, and then they're even going to tell other customers like their experience and so on. So that's just the argument for the mechanic side. But we try our best to get it the first try. But you know, some days you're just not going to get it the first try, the component that you called. And then you have a choice to make, which is you front the bill, or you just tell the customer to pay all of it. And most garages, even the ones I worked at, they don't front this bill, so they'll just tell the customer to pay the whole thing. And it kind of protects their mechanics as well, telling them, okay, yeah, you did a mistake, but you know, we're not gonna pay for that, so just do better next time. All right, so second scenario is going to be this guy over here. So in this scenario, component 5 is the one at fault, and that's the one we want to change. So I drew here a couple of components that we have to remove. So 1, 2. So we got component 1, 2. And then to get to 3 and 4, it's going to take 1 hour. And then to get to number 5, it's going to take another hour. So whatever you have to remove, and then either flush out some fluid or depressurize some systems and all that. So So this is what we would call a this is what we would call a 6-hour job. So 3 hours to get to the component and then 3 hours to put everything back. So this is where it gets complicated, where you finally reach component 5 over here, and then you've noticed that component 7 needs replacing, but you originally coded for only component 5. So that's where you have to have the hard conversation with the customer saying, listen, we're at component 5. Do you want us to replace component 7 just to save you some headaches down the line? And then they'll complain about, it was only originally number 5. And then this is where the trust issues come in, or like, which, is number 7 actually bad, or did you guys, mess something up? Because if the customer refuses to replace component 7, then we would have to put everything back. So that's another 3 hours. And then guess what? Maybe let's say 2 months down the line, component 7 goes bad. And then we would have to do this whole 6-hour again. So that's another 6-hour labor. And then for sure there's going to be trust issues, because now the customer has to pay for another 6-hour labor for the component that was supposed to be replaced with number 5, but they refused. So then you might lose a customer there, and yeah, so on. And then so there's 2 scenarios. To fix that problem, it's going to come down to mechanic experience. So if it's a big job that mechanics are used to, so they'll tell you that we're going to go in and change component 5, but also we're going to add component 6 and 7 to the bill, and even maybe number 3, because it takes long to get to these components. So we don't want to take all this time and all this labor that you're going to have to pay, and then at the end not change these components, because let's say the car is 5 years old with 100,000 kilometers on it. So that's the age of these components. So we're not going to put back 5-year-old 100,000 kilometer components back with the brand new number 5. So this is where experience would come in. And then the other scenario, which is you just can't predict what's going to go wrong. So sometimes there's like a bunch of rust and corrosion that by the time you get to component number 5, component 6 is completely corroded. It can't even go back together. So component 6 is completely corroded. It can't even go back together, and as well as component 7. So that shoots up the bill. And then they think you're a scammer, and then trust issues happen, and then you might lose a customer, and so on. So I had that scenario once where I was actually changing the rear main seal on my 2011 Cruze. And that's a big job. That was like, I can't even remember how long it was. Probably a 10 plus hour job. And the amount of stuff that went wrong was pretty bad. So I broke the thermostat housing. And I also broke the starter. And that's just stuff that happens, that you put stuff back and then it just breaks because, it's been sitting there for how many, this is a 2011, so 14-year-old car. Stuff gets brittle. It doesn't even go back to the same, it's not as flexible. So it just breaks just from handling it. And I probably broke a few other stuff too, I forgot. But say you have this job, say you're the customer and you have this job you're gonna have to do this job at a mechanic. Well, he's gonna have to, to avoid this, he's gonna have to let you know of a buffer. So he's gonna have to ask you for a $300 or a $400 buffer just to save you from all this. Because if he breaks this during the halfway point through the job, he calls you, says you need a thermostat. He's like, okay. And then towards the end, where I think the last component to put in was the starter, and then he breaks that too, then you get another call a few hours later saying, hey, you need this too. So you might lose trust in them, and then you might get frustrated because the bill just keeps adding up. But to avoid all that, just have them accept a $300 or $400 or even a $500 buffer just in case something goes wrong, which something always goes wrong, especially on a big job. But if you're really experienced and if the mechanic has done these big jobs often, then he could just put them all in the bill, and then the customer could either accept or refuse, and then he doesn't have to deal with that headache. All right, and now number 3. So the last scenario was that happened to me at my work. So it was a 2014 Kia Rio, and customer complaint was for a pulling issue, pulling to the, I think it was a right when driving. So this car gave me so much headaches. So I lost sleep because of this car. So originally I diagnosed a bad outer tie rod. So I put it on the, and you always confirm your repair after that. So I noticed a loose, the wheels was loose, so there was loose suspension components. So I determined it was a bad outer tie rod. So when I put the new outer tie rod in, you do the test again, you shake the wheel, and then boom, I've noticed that the inner tie rod was also bad. So the bad outer tie rod was actually masking the bad inner one. So this is where experience would come in. Sometimes this would happen where, say you have a ball joint that's loose, that's causing a lot of noise, like a really loose ball joint. You fix that ball joint and then boom, there's still noise in the front, which ends up being stabilizer links. So some components, when they're bad, they make so much noise that they mask other bad components, and then you have to tell the customer that, you know, we found other stuff that's wrong, and then here we go again. You know, they're gonna maybe lose trust with you, or they'll say, you know, you broke something during the job, or no, I can't trust you, and so on. Okay, so going back to the story, so I replaced with a brand new, so now we have an outer and an inner tie rod that's brand new, and then still the same customer complaint. So the wheel was still loose and the pulling issue was still there, and I was trying to align it at the same time, but it just wouldn't align. It was still pulling. And then come to find out that after putting these 2 new components, I do the wheel test again. I shake the wheel, and then I found out that the inner joint on the rack and pinion was loose. So, you know, I put a new outer, a new inner, and then at the end it was because of a bad rack and pinion. I mean, who's to blame in this scenario? You know, we could only replace what's obvious. You know, we can't predict that, you know, everything, like the whole thing was bad. So we only fix what's obvious, and then that was the obvious one, which was the outer. And then, okay, you know, you didn't call both of them at the same time, that's no problem. Just tell them that, you know, we also need an outer, inner. But this scenario was so bad that she needed a whole rack and pinion, and the advisor was pretty pissed. So he wasn't going to call the customer again, saying, you know, after we replaced your outer and inner, now you're going to need a whole rack and pinion of around $700 for 700 plus alignment. So yeah, that's a scenario where, you know, it's out of anyone's control really, but you can't really predict that, you know, oh, I'm not going to call this or this because I know that the joint on the rack and pinion is bad. But, you know, I had to fix these 2 first before I even knew that the rack and pinion was bad. So in these scenarios, you're going to have to, you know, let the customer know that, you know, if we do end up finding other stuff, is it okay if we let you know and replace it? And then the customer will say yes or no. And then once again, always, you know, this was such a unique scenario that it made no sense to give a buffer, honestly. But you just let them know that, listen, there could be stuff, other stuff wrong, and we'll let you know accordingly, and then we'll move on. So to finish up the story of the Kia Rio, so what I ended up doing was on the alignment machine, say your both angles were like this, and even when the wheels were straight, the car was still pulling to the right. So all I did was I slightly changed the toe angles to pull slightly to the left, and then when I test drove it, it drove perfectly straight. So yeah, eventually we didn't tell the customer that she needed a rack and pinion, but whatever, we fixed her complaint and then we sent her off. But it's just because it's hard sometimes to let the customer know. You might just lose a customer completely. He'll never come back. But we fixed her complaint, but she's probably still driving around with a loose joint in the rack and pinion. Eventually she'll come back and we'll tell her that, you know, you need a rack and pinion if she comes back with a noise complaint. But yeah, these scenarios are pretty hard to predict, and then pretty hard to tell what to do exactly. But you do your best to let them know, and then just let them know to anticipate extra cost, because you know it's cars. Not everything is predictable, even if you have years and years of experience. All right, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Hope you find it helpful. Hope you find it valuable. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.